Hi, I'm Donna Skell from Roaring Lambs Ministries, along with my co-host Tiffany Ross. Welcome to A Time to Dream. For those listening right now, what do you do when you feel like giving up? When your marriage is difficult or painful, when your job is overwhelming, or when parenting becomes seemingly impossible? Our guest today has also felt tempted to give up, but as she is here to share with us the beauty of what life can be like when we choose to push through those challenging times. We welcome Joyce Brown on A Time to Dream. Welcome, Joyce.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you ladies.
We're happy you're here.
Yeah.
So, at 62, Joyce Brown is the current Miss Texas Senior America, and she defined 60 for herself and lost 50 pounds when she was 59 years old. She now says that she's in the best shape of her life. She's also a motivational speaker whose goal is to really empower and motivate others to live their best life, regardless of their age. She also received an electrical engineering degree in 1981 and retired from corporate America after 38 years of service. Joyce is also a certified health coach and has 2 children. So we're pleased to have you as our guest. Your story is very inspiring. A lot of us reach the point where we think, oh, I can't do anything big with my life right now. I've missed that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But you're here to really remind us that it's never too late. It's never too late to make a decision that can make your life really change and be worthwhile. So your childhood, we'd like to start at the beginning of the story, and your childhood wasn't perfect, was it?
No, it wasn't. But I don't know if anyone's childhood is perfect.
Right.
I think that we all have challenges as parents
Yes.
and as children. So mine was rough. It was rough. It was challenging. I'll put it that way. So I grew up with my mom and my dad. There were 8 children. My mom had a 9th grade education and my dad had a 4th grade education. So you can imagine jobs for them was very scarce. And so money in our home with 8 children was very scarce. There was not a whole lot of food. We only had the necessities. We didn't have a lot of anything. But we were able to make it through. But my mom, she was the one that showed the love in the family and the emotional support. My dad, however, he was a disciplinary. Not only was he a disciplinary for the children, he ran a strict household also with my mom. He was sometimes abusive with my mom. He told us what we could and what we couldn't do, and there was no deviation one way or another. So it was a very challenging time for us. So yeah, it was a challenge.
And Joyce, when you were 15,
Mhm.
I believe,
Mhm.
something happened with your dad. Could you share a little bit about that?
Sure, yes. At 15, my dad had heart disease and he passed away when I was 15. And so he had been abusive at times with my mom, and eventually she remarried, and then the husband that she married was abusive to her as well. So we were able to see a lot of abuse where she was concerned. Now, she was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of early years, and I think that a lot of the control came because she was a stay-at-home mom. But once she started working, then she was able, had her own money, then she was able to exhibit a little bit more independence. And I watched that as a child, and I was able to see the difference from when she was at home and depended completely on my dad versus when she started working and she was able to, gain more independence. And she learned how to drive in her 50s. So she did begin to change in her latter years.
Listening, I would love to meet your mother. I don't know if she's probably not here. Is she
No.
still living?
No, she passed away
She's
in my 40s.
Okay,
Mhm.
but what a strong woman.
Mhm.
My goodness. And I'm sure that a lot of the strength I see in you sitting here is
Mhm.
from your mother
Mhm.
and the example she gave.
Mhm.
But we see, so here, both of your parents neither really had a high school degree even, and poverty to some degree with the family, and we see that pattern continue in many neighborhoods and many families. So how was it that you, Joyce, found the courage and the wherewithal to not only finish high school, but go on to get an electrical engineering technology degree? It's so wordy I can barely say it. But tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, I think because I watched what happened in my childhood, it set the pattern for me, a different pattern. It let me know what I wanted to escape from. And I didn't want to repeat that pattern, so knew that I wanted to make different choices. And even though we didn't have money, my parents did instill in us a strong work ethic and strong morals. So all of us kids, all 8 of us, we knew we had to work for anything we wanted in this life. And so I wanted to make sure that the job that I got was something that could give me some of the things that I didn't have as a kid. So I wanted, to be able to do for myself. And I wasn't interested in in getting married and having somebody support me. I saw what that looked like for my mom, and so I wanted my own career, my own money. However, in high school, no one ever took me aside and said, Joyce, go to college. We see a lot of potential in you. My family didn't. No one in my family had gone to college. I'm the 6th child, but none of my older siblings had gone to college. And so I got a job in the factory, which was to be expected of us. And after doing that for about 6 months, I was like, it's hot, it's dirty, it's sweaty. I think I can do better than this. And it was at that time that I decided to go to college. And in college, I initially had a different major initially. And when I found out what the salary would be once I graduated, then I was like, what else can I do? And so my advisor told me about engineering, and I was like, what's that? I mean, I didn't even know what it was at that time. But when I found out what the salary could be and what the potential could be as an engineer, I changed my major immediately. So yeah, I just knew that I wanted something different other than what I saw growing up as a child.
Well, I'm struck by your mom's life, like Tiffany. What a difficult time having 2 abusive husbands. So as children, did you go to church, or what was the spiritual climate of your childhood?
So we went to church sporadically. We didn't go consistently. My mom, however, was a strong believer. And I would see her studying her Bible even the years when we weren't going to church. I mean, she was a strong believer. She was always studying her Bible, and I remember her notes and everything that she would take. And, and she instilled that in us. And for me, personally, even as a child, I just knew that there was a God, and I knew that I had a strong heart for him. And I knew that one day I would have that relationship that I didn't have as a kid. But I knew that, that love was there, and one day I hoped that I would have a relationship with him.
That is so good. I think a lot of us have maybe grown up in a spiritual home and had strong spiritual parents, a mother or father. But what would you say for you was that turning point where you went from knowing about him and maybe wanting him one day? When did that day come for you to choose him?
It wasn't until after I had gone to college, and because my college years for me, I mean, high school and college, I wanted to have fun. As a typical teenager, young person, wanted to have fun. So even though I wasn't focused on him, he was still in my heart. So as a senior in college, I met my husband, and his background was completely different from mine. He had grown up in a strong spiritual Christian family. He had gone to Christian schools forever, and he just wasn't in church at that particular time when I met him. But after we got married and started our family, then he was like, we need to go to church. And I was in agreement because, once again, I always had that longing for him. And especially, once we started our family. And so we started going to church, and then I eventually gave my heart to Jesus. And so that began that spiritual journey for me.
And I love in your story you speak about, I had the pleasure of reading a bit of your testimony prior to this interview, where you said it wasn't this overnight transformation. We hear a lot of stories where people say, I was on drugs and I said the prayer and immediately I didn't want any more drugs. Or, it's just this immediate transformation. But I think it was encouraging for me to read from you that it wasn't necessarily an overnight transformation, and it was a quiet, bit by bit, growing in the Lord and trusting in him. Yes?
Yeah, so once we started going to church, we were there consistently. It seems like once I start something, I'm pretty consistent with it. So we were going to church on a consistent basis, all the time, and, we got the kids involved. We were actively participating in church. I was an usher, I was family life leader. So, once we started, we were active participants. And two, I had heard people say that, once they made that decision, that they were transformed, and I was like, something wrong with me? Why wasn't I transformed immediately? But my relationship was more quiet and, you know, long term. I guess more like my personality, I guess. And so I began to gradually grow in him and realize, you know, how he could change my life and how I learned to depend on him. And so yeah, for me it was more of a gradual thing as opposed to an immediate, you know, transformation and I'm immediately switch. But from the very beginning I loved him and I knew that I wanted that relationship. And so yeah, mine was more of a gradual one.
Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you, and you are a beautiful lady, and you could easily pass for 40 years old.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I mean, you don't have any
How
wrinkles.
much I owe you? How much I owe you for this?
But I know from your introduction that you lost quite a bit of weight, but it parallels your spiritual journey too. I know from being in the fitness business, you don't lose 50 pounds overnight. And it doesn't happen just because you wish it to happen.
Yes.
It was a big time in your life where you committed to something and did it. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell us a little bit about how you lost all that weight.
So like so many women, I mean, life happens, and you know, over decades I gained a little bit of weight every year, and probably by the time I was 50 I gained about 20 pounds. You know, and that wasn't bad. And I mean, even throughout before that I was always yo-yo dieting, trying to lose the 20 pounds that I gained. But then something happened in my 50s and I gained another 30 pounds just in my 50s. And I was like, what in the world? How did I get here? And so finally, I mean, I went through that whole decade of really yo-yo dieting and, you know, trying to lose the weight and keep it off, and just nothing happened. It seemed like the more I tried, the more weight I gained. So, I mean, at 59, I was pretty frustrated with myself. And not only was I overweight and didn't feel good about that, and when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't happy with what I saw. But I was also getting ready to turn 60 in 4 or 5 months. And that was another huge transformation, a huge realization for me that I was getting ready to turn 60. And for me, I was like, where did the years go? How am I here at the eve of turning 60? And in my mind, I had nothing to look forward to after I turned 60. The life was going to be on a downward slope for me. And I was just really frustrated all the way around, you know, with that. And so after feeling that way for some time, I finally decided that 60 is not bad, and I don't have to go into 60 with whatever I had in my mind. I have the ability to define 60 for myself. And so I decided that I wasn't going to make any more excuses. I was going to find a weight loss program, because I really did hit rock bottom for me at that time. And I found a weight loss program, and they were opening up a boot camp facility right around the corner from me. And I said, I'm going. At that time I was in the worst shape of my life. But I said, I'm going to boot camp, and I, you know, committed to eating right. And within 4 months, I had lost the last 30 pounds. Now, granted, before I started boot camp and before that, I had already lost 20 pounds. So once I started boot camp, and then the weight loss program, then that's when I lost the last 30 pounds. So by the time I turned 60, I had hit my goal of the 50 pounds that I wanted to lose. So I was about 50 pounds heavier than what I am right now.
Wow.
Well, so that's 50 pounds in 1 year.
Yeah, I did.
Oh my goodness.
And that's been 2.5 years. So, you know, I'm a living example that, you know, not only can you lose it, but you can keep it off as well.
Yes. Well, for those of you listening, 60 is the new 40. You are living proof.
I love it.
That's awesome. So, not only did you lose 50 pounds before you hit 60, but another goal was reached. I don't know if it was ever a goal of yours, but after losing the weight, you're sitting here in a lovely crown and a banner. Please tell us about your title and how that even came to happen for you.
Well, after I lost the weight, I was looking for something, and I wasn't sure what that something was. I wanted, once again, I had this new attitude. I lost the weight, and I wanted to go in 60 and make a bang of it. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to challenge myself in a way and try something that I'd never done before. Because in my mind, you know, the best part of my life is over with, so I don't have a whole lot of time left. Whatever I want to do, I better do it now. So I went online and I just started looking around at different opportunities, and I saw that they had a pageant for women 60 and older. And when I saw that, something just leaped inside of me, and I thought, I'm gonna do a pageant. Again, I didn't know anyone who had ever done a pageant. I had never been in a pageant myself. But when I saw that, I was looking for an opportunity, and I decided to do it, and I signed up, called the pageant coordinator, and got signed up. And I did it the first year, and I didn't place or didn't win. But when I look at the growth that I had experienced just from the preparation and being in that pageant, it was amazing for me. And then I went back and I did it the second year, and I won it the second year.
So I can't help but wonder, who were your biggest cheerleaders during that time?
Oh, my family, they were so supportive. Both my daughters and my husband, I mean, they were so supportive. And I didn't know how they were going to feel once I told them I was going to do a pageant, because it was so abnormal for my personality and who I was. And but they were in from the very beginning, and they were nothing but supportive and cheered me on from the very beginning.
I'm going to interject here. I just can't help but seeing this beautiful crown on this beautiful woman sitting in front of me. And I'm just reminded that we are royalty with the Lord.
Oh, yes.
We are
Yes.
His princesses and His princes.
Yes.
We are in His kingdom if we choose Jesus, right?
Yes.
And I love the fact that God is essentially just showing off, really, with your
feel
beauty,
that, yes.
with who you are and your grace, and that's such a lovely way to show the Lord off, and how good He is, and how wonderful He is, and how beautiful He is.
Yes.
So that I just wanted to chime in, Donna.
Well, and I know, like I said, from being in the fitness industry, that it takes a commitment.
Mhm.
And I usually used to tell people when they want to lose weight that you have to draw the line in the sand. You have to say, this is the day
Mhm.
that I'm going to start my new plan.
Mhm.
And you have to know in advance what your plan is and what you're going to do.
Mhm.
And you have to have that motivation to continue it. And very often we would see a lot of women who would come in and they would start off so strong and they were ready to tackle it and get all the extra weight off, but you know, a couple weeks later, a month later, they had slid into some bad habits. And I know you're a motivational speaker, and you probably address this a lot. So what would you say to somebody who had the will, but then lost the motivation and slid back to where they were? How can you help them?
I completely understand that, because I was there too. And like I said, I went through my 50s, and even before then, just yo-yo dieting, one time after another. And every Monday was going to be a new day, a new week, and I was going to start, fresh all over again. But the thing that I had to finally realize is that losing weight is not a quick fix. I mean, it has to be a lifestyle. And we all have heard that for years, and we know what it means, but you're going to have to really absorb that, and it's going to have to get deep down into your soul, because you can't just lose the weight and then, go back to doing what you were doing before. And I've done that before, where, I would reward myself. I've lost 5 pounds. I can go out and get that burger and fries now. And that's really just sabotaging yourself. Because once I had that burger and fries, and it was like, oh, now I want something else, and give me the cookies, or, whatever, Coca-Cola to go with it, whatever that looks like. So we're going to have to, whoever is out there struggling, you have to realize that you can't sabotage yourself. That once you get to that weight loss goal, or, lose 5 pounds, you can't go back and do what you did before, because the weight is going to come back. And like I said, I'm living proof of that, because that's what I did for years. And so now, that doesn't mean that you can't ever have a cookie, or you can't ever have a burger and fries. But now for me, it's more strategic in terms of, I'm going to have a burger and fries next week, but I'm not going to have that burger and fry every day leading up to next week. So, you have to be more strategic, and when you eat that, and know that you eat it that one time, and then you stop, and you go back to eating your, the good foods that got you, helped you accomplish your goals to begin with. The other thing is that I know we make a lot of excuses. It's like, I'm stressed, give me that chocolate. I'm stressed, give me that burger and fries. I don't care what I eat today, I need some chips. So we make a lot of excuses because of our emotional needs. And we have to realize all of those cycles, those are just cycles. And it's set up to move you back, and move you back to where you don't want to be. And my relationship with food, I finally had to realize, and I said it before I finally got serious about it. For me, food became like crack. And I've never used crack. but it was an addiction. I had to have it, and I'd get done eating one meal and then I want something else, and it just became an addiction. And then I think I might have lost the weight, but I realized that food for me was almost like an abusive boyfriend, because I loved it, and I wanted those fries or the chicken or whatever it was. I wanted it, but then I felt abused afterwards because I felt, why did I do that?
Right.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then I would beat myself up.
Right.
So it was almost like an abusive relationship I was in. It was like I kept doing what I knew I didn't want to do, and then I felt abused. So, I mean, it's so many emotional pitfalls that you fall into when it comes to food, and you just have to realize that you have a made up mind and you're not going to go back there. Period.
Right.
And I mean, even during the shutdown, I didn't go back there. So I had to make it a lifestyle change. No more excuses.
That's
So-
wonderful. I know part of your story and the challenges that you've overcome is this issue of control.
Mhm.
And what's subtle is you can go from food being an
Mhm.
idol in our lives, really,
Mhm.
to then your weight loss is an
Mhm.
idol and your accomplishments are an
Mhm.
idol. How do you find the balance with the Lord to not make this success an idol for you?
So you're right. Control was a problem for me, and in the early days when I was young, when starting my family and all, I've always had a problem with control, and I think women do.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be in control of everything, and we don't want to ask for help. And so we set ourselves up, and then you feel like a failure because you can't do it all, and it becomes overwhelming. And so for me, where the successes that I've had, I have realized that none of this is possible without God.
Amen.
From the time I went to college, you asked me how did I have the ability to not fall into the same pattern that I grew up in. It was God. I mean, I look back now and I know that God was leading me from the very beginning, and I know that I could do none of this on my own. And because I know that I have to give him credit for everything I've done and everything that I am and everything that I've accomplished, it's only been because of him. He has been leading me. And I've just been foolish enough to say, okay, God, yes, I'll do it. I just didn't know any better. And so, because of that, he has kind of led me and guided me. And here I am now and given me some level of success. But I have to give all credit to him, because I know that it's only because of him that any of this has been possible. I would not be here sitting here with you two great ladies had it not been for God. So this whole thing, my whole life has been such a God experience.
And he's the best coach that
Oh,
we
yes,
can have. I think
yes.
about that scripture about no temptation is so great that he
Mhm.
can't help you bear it.
Right.
And he wants you to be the best
Yes.
you that you can be. He created you. I always say, he created me to be 5'2". He
Yes.
created me to be
Yes.
120, which
Yes.
I'm not. And I want to fulfill the blueprint
Mhm.
that God created for
That's
my
good.
body.
Right.
And so he is the ultimate motivation,
Yes.
really.
Well, and when I think about it, and he did it for me, but I'm so not special. I am so just a typical person, typical woman that's had challenges in my life. But whatever he's done for me, he wants to do for all of us.
Right.
I mean, there is nobody that he is not speaking and whispering to and telling them, go do it. But a lot of times we're afraid and we're like, and there's been times I was too, I was like, I can't do that. So, we resist
Right.
his calling, but he wants us all to be more than what we think we can be, because there's so much more to each and every one of us, but we just have to be willing to let go and let God, like I
Right.
stated earlier.
Words to live by.
Yeah, and what I love is that your motivation is to use this platform
Yes.
that he created for you
Yes.
at this time in your life to really bring him glory.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you didn't do this for you so you pat yourself on the back. We
Mhm.
hear that.
Mhm.
It's really for God's glory
Mhm.
that you are using your title
Mhm.
and the platform. He's given you a great platform
Mhm.
for this time, and you're using it for his glory.
Well, and I would never want to take any of the glory for myself, because like I said, I just want to always just acknowledge him and give him full glory for anything and everything that I've done and accomplished. And, some people may look at it and say, oh, you've done so much. And I'm like, God's done so much with this little,
Right.
flesh. So I just always want to give him the full honor and glory for it all.
Right. And the first step to getting there is really receiving Jesus
Oh, yes.
as your Lord and Savior. And we don't know where you are spiritually, but you've been listening to an amazing story about how God brought Joyce to this point so that she could use this title for His glory. And maybe that's whetted your appetite to have Jesus in your life. It's so gracious the way He allows us to ask Him to come into our life, and He does. And so I pray that because of this show, that you will just in your own words, in your own way, just say, Jesus, I want you to come into my life.
Yes.
Show me who you created me to be. Bring me to the full potential of myself so that I can bring you glory. If you just pray that in your own words, that's a prayer He loves to answer. So we hope that you have joined the kingdom of God today by joining Joyce Brown and Tiffany Ross and myself on A Time to Dream. Thank you for listening. If you want to reach out to Joyce, you can do that. Here is her email address. It is Joyce MTSA. That's Joyce MTSA19 at gmail.com. And you can reach us at atimetoDream@gmail.com. You can listen to our past shows on roaringlambs.org. And we hope you have a great day, a blessed week, and we look forward to seeing you next time on A Time to Dream.
Thank you.